I'd like to continue now exploring from the book of James and really just picking 2 or 3 verses from chapter 3 and chapter 4. Firstly in James 3, then in James 4. Let me read from that passage. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds shown in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbour bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes down from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. When you ask, you do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he'll flee from you. Come near to God, and he'll come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Now, James is very practical. We've learned this from the very beginning. The moral emphasis that he calls from us as Christians is to get rid of all those things that get in the way, envy, selfish ambition, which in due course leads to disorder and division. God's wisdom is peaceable and gentle. James contends that all conflicts and desires come from within. In fact, James really gets onto something that is true in the Bible. It's the stuff inside that makes all the difference, good or bad. We should seek God's will and purpose. We're called to take sides with truth. I remember a friend of mine, David Shepherd, Bishop David Shepherd in the UK, who wrote a book called Bias to the Poor. Oh my goodness me, it caused trouble. We don't like to think about having biases, but we do have a bias as Christian people, and we're called to take sides with truth. The two sides are very much those sides that are reflected in the world around us and its rewards, or God's way of truth. Friendship with God, I think, means being an enemy of what's wrong. It means standing with those who are hurt, disenfranchised, by those people who are damaged, and by those values that we know are real and very different than those things. We can't seek to be double-minded as Christians. I like that sense that James brings out about being double-minded. You can't think it in two ways. Verse 13 in the passage talks about this wisdom. It says, who is wise? It's a matter of choice. We have choices in life to make. We're called all throughout our lives to make choices. Those choices are not, oh, well, what am I going to have for my lunch today, or what am I not going to have? They're very serious choices about values, about people, and about the things that really make a difference. And then in verse 17, in the same passage, we're told that wisdom comes from God. It's identical, really, to the Beatitudes. I like the Beatitudes when we do our exploration in the film about the Galilee. We focus a lot on the Beatitudes, the way we should live, the values that should control our lives. And we must submit our lives to God. I think there's some negative stuff in the Christian tradition about this word submit, but not here. Certainly not here. We must submit our lives to God. We must decide what the priorities are going to be in our lives as we draw near to God. So he comes near to us. He draws close to us. That's the truth in verse 8 that we find together here. Come near to God in that sense. You know, I think that what we find in James when he gets to this point, he's talked all about those things like the tongue and all about works and how works should really reflect our discipleship. Here he's talking about the inner life, but not in a pious a way that is rejecting of people, but saying this inner life can make such a difference to the way we live our lives outwardly, day by day. As we come near to God, so he comes near to us and guides the way that we perceive living our lives. So submitting our lives to God becomes the practical reality, day by day, of how we live. That we don't become a people who are embracing those values, those ways that are negative, but rather the very positive way, the way of Christ. James has often been misunderstood by people. I think Martin Luther got it wrong too about James, actually. He called it an epistle of straw. You could say it's really powerful stuff because it really gets into the business of this relationship between our faith, what we believe is true about Jesus Christ, our trust in God, and our works, those things that we do day by day. Theodore Roosevelt summed up the danger of selfishness in the American context when he said this: "The things that will destroy America are peace at any price, prosperity at any cost, safety first instead of duty first, and the love of soft living and the getting rich quick theory of life." We're all different people, but I think there's a truth in some of that we need to really take seriously what it means to embrace the good news of the gospel in our own lives day by day.